NATS chiefs, including John Swinney, unleashed a torrent of pressure on NHS bosses to open Scotland's scandal-hit superhospital in 2015 before it was ready, damning footage reveals. The now First Minister warned that on time and on budget is the rule in a tub-thumping conference speech linking the opening of the ill-fated £842 million facility to the SNP's 2015 general election push.
And here in the great city of Glasgow, we will soon see the single largest NHS project ever delivered, the new South Glasgow Hospital, on time and on budget. Conference with the SNP government, on time and on budget, is the rule, not the exception.
Last night, Mr Swinney and his fellow ministers who made similar comments ahead of the botched hospital's early opening were accused of turning the screw on NHS bosses to make political capital with tragic consequences. The details emerged amid mounting calls for Mr Swinney to explain why Glasgow Health chiefs said they felt pressure to open the Queen Elizabeth University Hospital too early in April 2015, 10 days before the election, when it was not ready. The First Minister and his government have emphatically denied they pushed NHS Greater Glasgow and Clyde Health amid furious accusations that the decision led to a list of avoidable patient deaths.
Proof that the Scottish Government pressured health officials to open the Glasgow superhospital before it was safe to do so?
No, that document is with the inquiry and it's been considered by the inquiry, and the counsel to the inquiry said on Friday that there is no evidence of external pressure on NHS Greater Glasgow and Clyde. And when you set up a public inquiry, you give it all the information, you allow that inquiry to judge, and I've got every confidence in Lord Brodie judging on these issues.
But this is part of the evidence before the inquiry, a report commissioned by the Government and the Health Board, and it has found that political pressure was also being felt and no consideration was given to delaying the opening of the hospital.
And I simply cite to you that the counsel to the inquiry on Friday said there was no evidence of external pressure on NHS Greater Glasgow and Clyde in that respect.
But we can reveal multiple public comments from the time where figures including Mr Swinney, Nicola Sturgeon, Finance Secretary Shona Robertson, Health Secretary at the time, repeated the on time and on budget mantra. Footage of Mr Swinney's NSP conference on the 29th of March 2015 as the general election campaign began shows how the then Deputy First Minister linked the hospital's opening to why the Nats deserved to be elected. The First Minister's comments came just 4 weeks before the flagship Nats infrastructure project opened earlier than expected, 10 days before the 2015 general election, and in the previous months SNP ministers had made their expectations clear that it would be open by mid-2015. Speaking at Holyrood on the 4th of March 2015, then Health Secretary Shona Robertson said,
"We do have to accept that the fact that it's been delivered before schedule and under budget is one of the great achievements of the Government. Could the Cabinet Secretary give me further information on what final steps are in place to ensure a smooth opening of the hospital in a couple of months' time that will benefit patients, visitors and staff?"
Cabinet Secretary.
Well, I'm happy to confirm to the member that the £842 million project for the new South Glasgow Hospital remains on time and on budget.
On the 12th of November 2014, the week before she became First Minister, Ms Sturgeon told MSPs,
"Work progresses towards completion, again on time and on budget, of the new South Glasgow's hospital project."
And on the 4th of November 2014, the then Health Secretary Alex Neil told Parliament,
"Work continues on time and on budget on the £842 million new South Glasgow Hospitals project, which is due to complete in spring 2015.
And Scottish Labour leader Anna Sarwar said the footage of Mr Swinney was jaw-dropping.
John Swinney gives this speech a little over 2 weeks after the NHS and the government receive a report that says that the hospital is not safe, that there's a high risk of infections and therefore a high risk to life in immunocompromised patients, and they choose to ignore that report and open the hospital anyway. And we have seen the devastating consequences in the 10 years that passed. So this makes it abundantly clear that the SNP did apply political pressure to open that hospital before it was ready, and they have ignored warning after warning, year after year, with devastating consequences. John Swinney claims he didn't apply pressure. This proves the opposite. He claims the government didn't know until March 2018 that there were infection issues at the hospital. That's also now proven to be true, because we know there were 14 alerts between the opening of the hospital and 2018, but they were ignored and they ploughed on regardless. And look at the devastating impact. Families have lost loved ones, they've been lied to, whistleblowers have been bullied, and the public have not been told the truth. And we now have a police investigation into deaths linked to the infection scandal at the Queen Elizabeth University Hospital. This is the biggest scandal in the history of the Scottish Parliament.
Scottish Conservative MSP and Shadow Health Secretary Dr Sandesh Gulhani said this is damning proof that the now SNP leader was unleashing a torrent of pressure in a bid to get the Queen Elizabeth University Hospital open before it was ready. John Swinney has now been caught red-handed, turning the screw on NHS bosses in a shameless bid to help the SNP election campaign. The Nationalists put people's lives at risk to win votes. The Scottish Government has repeatedly denied applying pressure after NHS Greater Glasgow and Clyde last month told the Scottish Hospitals Public Inquiry pressure was applied to open the hospital on time and on budget. It is now clear that the hospital opened too early and it was not ready. Scottish Government press releases from the Times show that on the 31st of March 2015, the Scottish Government was still talking about the South Glasgow Hospital before the name was changed to the Queen Elizabeth University Hospital as being scheduled to open in May that year. It ended up opening to patients on the 27th of April. Hundreds of workmen were still on site and the child cancer ward was not properly fitted out with all safety measures such as filters which remove airborne particles. 2 days later, on April the 29th, a Legionella assessment carried out for the NHS said the management of the bacteria was classed as high risk because of significant communication issues between the parties responsible for managing the risk. The report after the inspection also warned of a risk of stagnating water in parts of the building, increasing infection risk, while debris was found in a water tank. Further inspections in September and October of 2017 found debris was still in the same water tank and there had been no significant water system alterations. At least 84 children caught infections in the first years after the hospital opened. 2 died, including 10-year-old Millie Main, who fell ill in summer 2017 while in remission for leukaemia. Millie's mum, Kimberly Darragh, said last month that the pressure to open early possibly came from Mr Swinney, Nicola Sturgeon and Shona Robertson, given there was a general election. Fatalities also included former Scottish Government official Andrew Slorence, who died aged 49 in December 2020. His cause of death was given as COVID-related pneumonia, but his wife Louise later discovered he had also had a fungal infection linked to other deaths at the hospital.